Hi everyone. Hmm. Welcome. Okay, let me just double check that all the settings are right, that we are live. Ooh. Hey everyone. So awesome to be here and welcome everyone. So this training is for all the men who want to dive deeper into the son mother dynamic. So we'll be exploring what these dynamics are, how they are created, and how they impact your relationships. And of course, finally, the most important part is what are some of the steps that you can take to help you release your mother, heal that relationship, and be free to create healthy, passionate, loving, intimate relationships, because absolutely the son mother dynamic has a huge impact on your intimate relationship. So let's dive into this. Oh, this is such a big topic. This is such a big topic. So let's look at some of the reasons. And by the way, I'm just looking at the connection. Okay, I hope it's going all well. So let's look at this dynamic. Why, first of all, why is this dynamic so strong? Because the truth is, some generations ago, that wasn't really an issue. Like the dynamic son mother wasn't actually an issue. The issue was, if anything, the son father dynamic. But now we suddenly have men dealing with all of these emotions, resentment, and attachments towards their mother. So what the heck happened in the last few centuries that this is the case? So I want to share with you a few aspects of what happens and what is impacting boys in such a way that when they grow up to be men, they're still so dependent and still so connected to their mothers. And again, this sort of connection is actually not healthy, and I'll speak in more details why. Like why at some point you want to be able to cut the umbilical cord and separate. So if you look at the last few centuries, we're talking about the reality within which women didn't have a lot of rights. We're talking about a very macho masculinity type, and women who would stay home. Your role is to have kids, to cook in the house, and women had no say in all of this. And there are many cases of women being abused and raped, and a woman couldn't say anything. Like a woman would not be the one deciding on her life, it was the husband. And so, for obvious reasons, women were unhappy in that situation. They wanted to change it, but they didn't really have the power. Remember, women were not the ones working, these were men. So, a woman was dependent on a man, she had no say. And so, this is why over time, women turn into very subtle manipulative techniques to get what they want. And by the way, this is something that it's present until today. If you look at how women behave when they're trying to get a man, when they're trying to like get a job or promotion, we're very sneaky. We don't ask directly for what we want because we have like learned collectively, generation over generation, that we don't get to ask directly what we want because that's not our place. Like we don't get to speak up. So we learn to manipulate situations to get what we want. And so, in the reality where women had no say and men were becoming more and more powerful and also more abusive, women collectively started raising boys to become men that would not threaten women. So, the thing is that a lot of emasculation comes from mothers. By the way, when I use the word emasculating, I mean diminishing the masculine energy. You can emasculate a man and a woman. You can defeminize a woman and a man. So what I mean by this, because I know that the word emasculation has like a lot of connotations, and some people like say that no, you can never emasculate a man. To me, you can. And emasculation basically means like diminishing the masculine energy in a person. So what started happening, again, over centuries, it's not one generation we're talking about, but what started happening is that women would suppress the intense masculine energy. They would suppress the fire and the earth. They would suppress the warrior in their sons, because this way they could protect women and girls becoming women from this intense energy. And this is a very serious topic because it is impacting things hugely, because right now, all in all, we actually don't have a lot of integrated warriors. We have men who fight, we have fighters, we have intense men, But that's exactly the thing. This is not the integrated warrior. This is the shadow of the warrior. So the non-integrated aggression, not integrated fire. Because for this warrior to come up and be integrated, a man or a boy at that time needs to be introduced to this energy and needs to go through certain trials to develop this energy. Like that energy is developed through challenges. So what happens today? For example, let's say there is a boy who's at school, and what happens usually between kids, there is a fight, there is a conflict. Now, in the past, like kids had to solve it between themselves, especially boys. They just had to find a way to solve it. So through those interactions with other boys, they would learn how to source their own inner warrior. They would learn how to rely on their strength and power, on their own ability to understand the situation, like their intuition, because there was no one to help them, so they needed to develop those qualities inside of them. But what happens today? If one kid beats another kid, even if it's a girl or a boy, we call the mom, right? Because father is busy. The mom comes over, and it's a conversation between the moms. So what is the message for a boy? That if I'm ever in trouble, my mom will help me. Right? If I'm ever in trouble, they can run to their mom and the mom will help them. And you can see it very often. You can see like a little boy crying and running towards his mom. Now look, that's not to say that this is wrong as a rule. Absolutely. If a child is crying, that's what the mother is for. What I'm talking about is the fact that this is the only reality that the boys learn about, that they experience, that they're not put in situations where they have to source that help within themselves. Because the mother is there, like this. My child is, like someone picks on my boy, I'm there right away. I'm not giving space to my child to deal with the situation on its own, okay? Now, so what happens as a consequence? A boy learns that if I am weak, if I am in need, I will receive affection, I will receive love, I will receive help. So this is actually the opposite of what we would like to see. Like ideally what we would see is, a boy, a young man, and then a man. If you're ever in trouble, you think like, okay, something is not good in my life. I need to source the strength from within to change it. I need to be like, I'm responsible for my life. I'm going to step up and take care of it on my own. That's the sense of responsibility, accountability, and the ability like to understand that you're in control of your life. But because the way most I would say women raise the boys learn that if they're in trouble, they can play the card of being weak, of being in need, and they'll expect a woman to take care of them. And this is something I've actually seen really a lot. So we live in times, where when Tantra is becoming more and more popular, and it's beautiful. And yes, we do need more space to slow down and become more sensitive and allow the emotions in men as well. But what we're observing very often is that when, especially in intimate relationships, like when a man steps down to being a boy, he makes himself small, he's misbehaving, he's not in his integrity. He is expecting a woman to take care of him. And if a woman, sets the boundaries, then he's misbehaving even more because he's falling back into the pattern of a boy. So that is a big, big thing, because this is something that keeps you stuck in the victim mentality, in the weakness. Okay. Now, the other aspect is that often moms smother their kids with love. And this is again linked a lot to what women have been dealing with for centuries. So we have been successfully convinced that our value as a woman comes from how good of a mom and how good of a wife I am. So women have been taught to please other people, to sacrifice themselves, to take away from me, to give to another person, and then I'm a good woman, then I'm worthy of love. And so what happens as a consequence is that a mother will take away from herself and will give everything to the child. And it just kind of overdoing this, she's overdoing this. And I wonder for anyone listening, if that was your experience, if you could feel that your mom was a little too much with her affection. I had that. I've had this, in my life, when my mom would come and hug me when I didn't want to be hugged. Like she would buy things even though I asked her not to buy them, because it's still this conditioning that through doing all these things, now she will receive a love and affection and appreciation in return. And so it's literally suffocating the kids. So very often, a lot of boys were suffocated by all of these tactics of their moms. Now, here is another interesting thing. So I actually didn't know about this. My friend told me about this experiment some time ago. So what has been observed is that a mother reacts differently to a child crying based on the gender of this child. So if, let's say, a child is in a bedroom and they're crying, if it's a boy, she will run to take care of the child. But if it's a girl, she will not. And the reason being for this, what was concluded was that it's a way that mothers are preparing their daughters for the hardship of being a woman in this life. You know, it's like a man will cheat on you. You will be earning less money for the work that you do, same work that a man does. You will be harassed, all of these things. So she's kind of preparing a girl to be strong, to be able to deal with the pain. It's not what mothers do with the sons. Again, if it's a son crying, she's right there taking care of him. So there is a different approach to boys and girls, which eventually makes boys grow up to be actually more in need of female affection than women. Now, another aspect is that, and I speak about it a lot, is there's no culture of rite of passage. You know, in the past, when a boy was young, and we're talking even about like 9, 10, 11 years old, boys would be sent away for different trials. Like they would study with someone, learn a craft, learn to ride horses. Like they would be doing a lot of things already, heavy lifting. So that is the process that allows a boy build the strength, but also build the understanding that they are in control of their life, that they're strong enough to handle the hardship of this world. Now, right now, what we have is no rite of passage, right? Like boys and girls go through the same process, basically no process. And boys never get to actually, they're never tested. Their strength is never tested. And once again, the strength is developed through challenges. So if you never challenge a boy's strength, the strength will never be developed. Another aspect we need to understand is that for a long time now, fathers have not been really available to raise sons, right? Like they are working. So the only person available to take care of a son is a mom. So this is why, again, this relationship between a son and a mother is going to be stronger, because we live in times when fathers usually work harder. And even in places where like a mother can go back to work and all of this, the reality is usually that a man is the one who like makes more money. And so when there is a child, like this discrepancy between the roles in the relationship, it becomes more prominent, with the woman falling into the role of a wife and a mother, and a man falling into the role of a provider. But the bottom line is, it's not about this being good or bad. The bottom line is that strengthens the relationship between a son and a mother. So there's more dependency, more attachment. Another really important aspect is that, and it's a bit of like a vicious cycle. So many women are frustrated with their husbands who cheat, and women know it, but they decided to stay. Husbands who don't treat them, who don't like they're frustrated sexually. There's tons of reasons why women who are in relationships are not happy. So there's all of this frustration from the mother towards the father. And either intentionally or not intentionally, mothers project that frustration onto their sons. And this can happen through subtle comments like, oh, your father never does that. Oh, your father never did this to me. Oh, your father is like this. Don't be like your father. So there's maybe different comments, but it's also just energy. Like children are extremely in tune with energy, so they can sense that. So when a son observes the dynamic between a mother and a father, and he's still dependent on the mother, remember, right? Like he's dependent on the mother because there's no rite of passage, because the father is working, because the mother is raising him, like, more from the helplessness perspective. So if he sees that the mother is unhappy because of the father. What happens as a consequence? This boy starts resenting the father. Now, that means that his relationship with his father now is jeopardized. And look, in many cases, his father may indeed not be the best example of being a man, but by resenting his father, he ends up resenting his masculine side. So now if he's resenting his masculine side, he's dropping more into his feminine, not going through the process of growing up and maturing his masculinity because he's rejecting it by rejecting his father. Now that actually also causes resentment towards the mother. So most sons actually on a deep level resent their mothers because they recognize what she's been doing, that she hasn't been giving them space, that she hasn't trusted him enough to do something on his own. You know, every single time when a mother stepped in to take care of the son, he feels emasculated. So this resentment is growing over time. And he sees that there was no space for the father to be held and expressed. And unknowing, like usually subconsciously, he's aware that she's suppressing the masculine in the family. He feels that, and that builds up resentment. But it's not the right thing to resent a mother. So now the boy develops all the guilt around this. So now a boy learns that it's not okay to tell a woman that what she's doing is wrong. That it's not okay to tell a woman, hey, you're not respecting me. It's not okay to challenge a woman because that's my mom. How could I ever do this to my mom? She took care of me. She sacrificed herself for me. So now you have resentment and guilt together. Now, of course, the opposite is true as well. So when we talk about mothers who were not affectionate with their sons, who were rather cold, and, you know, we've seen this multiple times when, you know, mothers who are not very emotional, are not very expressive, they're not very touchy. So on the contrary, here, a boy is expecting the opposite trauma, not of the engulfment and being smothered with love, but by being abandoned emotionally. So a child never learns what it's like to be held by the feminine. The child never learns that it's safe to open up and relax to the feminine energy. Right? So if it's something he's never experienced, he doesn't know how to do it. So the child develops this belief that he cannot trust the feminine, that he can never commit to the feminine because he will not be met. It's not safe. Now, look also what's happening in your adult life. So everything I shared so far, we're talking about childhood. But look at what's happening. What is the dynamic for you now as an adult man? So when you come and visit your mom, what is it like? You know, I've observed this very often that when an adult man comes to visit his parents, his mom, he like has to do everything the exact way she asked for. So this is the kind of a woman who was not flexible for a son. Usually this would be a woman who wasn't very affectionate, and she doesn't know how to compromise to accommodate for a son's need. So now as adults, he comes in and he still doesn't get a say. He doesn't get a hug. You know, he's basically told, do this, do that, and he obeys because he never learned that he gets to say no to his mother. Or again, the opposite may be true when like you come to visit your mom and she like, again, smothers you with love and takes care of you as if you had, you know, as if you were 8 years old again, like treating you as if you're incapable of taking care of yourself. Now, I have to say that my mom has this pattern. So anytime I come home, it's like, she does my laundry, she cooks for me, she does the groceries and everything. And now I kind of let it go. It doesn't bother me. But at the very beginning, like when I was young and I started making my own money and living on my own, like that was triggering the shit out of me because I was like, Mom, I'm an adult. Like I'm independent. Don't do this. If I ask you, yes, but she's doing all of those things without being asked, or even when I specifically express that I do not want her to do this. So it's a very disempowering place to be if you go to see your mom and then she treats you like a boy. She doesn't like see you as an adult because she's pulling you back into the position of a child. So she is not allowing you to grow up. So this, like I said, has huge consequences in your adult life. It has huge consequences on what type of women you'll be attracted to, on your ability to be in a relationship, and the dynamic and how happy you will be in this relationship. So first of all, when we talk about any form of unhealthy relationship with a mother, what happens is this: you end up attracting and being attracted to women who will reflect the energy of your mom. And so in most cases, like I said, these patterns are not very healthy. So you're um, recreating an unhealthy pattern, but now in your intimate relationship. So the very first thing is men who look for a nurturer. Now look, nurturing is a beautiful quality of the feminine and a beautiful quality of the woman, but this is one of the many qualities. So you have to be really honest with yourself. Who are you looking for? Because if you're looking for a nurturer, you're actually looking for a mother. Now, if you're a man who is looking for a lot of qualities in a woman, and among them you like when she's nurturing, that's fine. But there's so many men who basically have this unhealthy bias towards nurturing women. And what happens if she's very nurturing, then you start following this dynamic that in order to get affection, you make yourself small and you make yourself weak, or you make yourself cute. And so you have this idea that by being a strong, empowered man with direction, you're not going to get the nurturing. So you make yourself small. And this will also be the dynamic for going through the challenges. So if anything goes well, if you do anything like wrong and you know it's wrong, what you're going to do is, instead of just like owning and be like, okay, I need to change my game, this is not okay what I did, right? Instead, what happens that you start playing small, you start being weak, and trying to be, again, like trying to play the pity card. Oh, if I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it, I love you so much, and all of these big declarations, all you're doing is acting like a kid, making yourself small, because in return, you will get affection. But the thing is that this is the opposite of stepping up, the opposite of claiming your power, the opposite of being mature, the opposite of growing up. Like, you're doing the opposite, like the strategy takes you in the opposite direction. And you have to understand that this strategy is actually harmful to you, because you don't ever get to overcome your obstacles. So when men, for example, like a true woman, like a woman who's beautifully in her feminine energy and her masculine energy, will challenge you when you act out of your integrity. So start observing, can you take it? If a woman tells you, hey, don't ever do this again, this is not okay, like this is crossing my boundaries, what's your reaction? Can you hear her? Can you look at yourself and be like, okay, you're right, I won't do this again? Or you can have a conversation that, hey, this is my choice to do it, like let's talk about it. Or are you someone who feels suddenly hurt, and now you're emotional and you're speaking to a woman from a place of like, I'm so sorry, I love you, I will never do it again? It's like you're trying to have her feel pity and sorry for you. And through this, you're trying to repair the situation, but you never have any intentions of actually changing and stepping up. This is the strategy that boys use when they're boys towards their moms, right? If you like hit your sister and the mom says, don't do it, you'd be like, oh, but she hit me first, I'm the victim here. Then the mom looks away, and what do? You hit the sister again, right? There's no intention of changing. So if you're stuck in this pattern, you never get a chance to overcome your obstacles. You never get a chance to face your monsters, to face your weaknesses, and step up as a man. You never get a chance to become the king that theoretically every man is meant to become in his life. But because of those different patterns, so many men never do. So many men at the age of like 60, 70 haven't yet stepped into the energy of the king. They're still boys. And in fact, the dynamic with the mother is often responsible for this. Now, another thing that happens in the relationship, if you have this strong dynamic with your mother, is that eventually the relationship with your woman changes. So even if you started as equals, even if you started as lovers, like partners, you start shifting the dynamic towards son and mother, right? So you stop being equal. You start making yourself small because you put her on pedestal. Because remember, as a boy, when you looked at your mom, she was your God, she was your survival. So now you do the same with your girlfriend. Like, if a woman like can give you affection, you will do everything for her, right? You are abandoning yourself, you're abandoning your values, and abandoning like the mission in your life, because here is a woman and you need to obey her. This is not healthy. And of course, this eventually impacts your sexuality, because you have to remember, a boy doesn't want to have sex with his mother, right? So when you allow for this dynamic to really become powerful in your relationship, you'll notice that like this polarity is not there anymore, that you don't want to have sex with her as much, and she doesn't want to have sex with you. It's because you became son-mother relationship, then equal lovers. So super, super important to understand that when you have this dependency on the mother energy, you get stuck in the Peter Pan syndrome, which is the boy who never wants to grow up. And like I said, this is costing you a lot. This is costing you a lot. One of those things is intimate relationships, but trust me, it's costing you in all areas of your life. Okay? But you have to recognize that this is simply because as a boy, you learn that this is the only way to get affection. So you need to really change those patterns. It really takes some work to be able to switch that. Now, another consequence for the relationships is that you become controlled by your inner child. And this is a problem, because if you've ever been around an actual 5-year-old, it's not really good when that 5-year-old is controlling the whole household, because they don't have the capacity to make certain decisions. For them, it's all about now, what I want now, no responsibilities, no accountability, like only pleasure. So if that energy starts taking over your life, you don't get to accomplish anything. You don't get to commit to anything. You don't get to build anything. You're going to cause a lot of pain and problems for yourself and people around you. And one of the ways how this inner child is manifested in a relationship is by this demand to be loved unconditionally. Because as a child, you're like, well, it doesn't matter what I do, my mom should love me. Even if I was mean to her, she should love me. Even if I threw food on the floor, she should love me because she is my mom, right? In a way, yes, when you're a child, like, your mom should love you unconditionally, but this is not the same dynamic that you should be expecting in an adult relationship. Because what happens is that you believe that I can act as badly as I want and you still should love me. Because if you loved me, right, then you would love me through my weaknesses. Then you would accept me as I am, right? Then you would love me unconditionally. And that's not true, because romantic love is not necessarily unconditional love. Like, think about it. There are reasons why you're with this woman. Because of how she looks. If she was suddenly 20 kilos bigger, would you still want to be with her? If she wasn't like taking care of herself, if she was smelly and never washed her hair and never, brushed her teeth, would you be with her? Would you still love her unconditionally? If she kept nagging every single day, or if she kept like, hitting you, physically abusing you, would you still love her unconditionally? You wouldn't. Your love is conditional, and so is hers. And expecting your partner to love you despite how badly you behave, it's not fair. It's not fair. Like, if you're acting like a boy, if you're out of your integrity, if you make yourself small, no, a woman should actually call you on that shit and you should step up. If you're someone who cannot handle that and you're like, oh, you don't accept me as I am, that's exactly the inner child taking over. It's like throwing tantrums, behaving badly, and still expecting that she's going to magically nurture you despite it all. Because what you're doing continuously with this pattern is trying to prove to yourself that you're lovable, right? You need to prove that no matter how bad I behave, I will be loved because I deserve to be loved. It's because this dynamic with your mother wasn't healthy to develop the feeling of deservedness and worthiness for love. Okay. Now, again, the opposite is also true for all the mothers who haven't shown you affection. So the only reality is that it's not safe to commit to a woman, and especially not one woman. It's not safe to open up. So what happens if a woman didn't give enough affection to a man or to a boy, this man will not be able to maintain a relationship, especially not with one woman. He will always need women. These are all the men who become codependent, who put women on pedestals, and who basically like, oh, she has affection for me, I'm gonna follow her. She has affection, I'm gonna follow her. That's the Casanova syndrome. Casanova syndrome is a man who hasn't experienced enough affection as a child, so now he's starving for the female affection, so he's trying to grab it from everywhere. And so these would be also the men who will not have a lot of ability to choose the right partner, because they will not have the filters activated, because they will be willing to sacrifice themselves, they will be willing to sacrifice their dreams just to get the affection from a woman. So these are men who do not know how to be single, they do not know how to be celibate. So these are men who always search for the next woman. And that is costing them a lot, because it's at the longing of every heart that we want to be in the union. We want to dive deep with the beloved. But the men who did not receive enough affection from their mothers, they simply don't know how to do it. They don't know how to just surrender to one woman, because in their mind, they will not get enough affection. They're so starved of female affection that it will never be enough. But they may be dating 10 women at the same time. It will never be enough, because what they actually need to learn to do is to source that affection from within. And so the more they keep going outside, connecting with more and more women, they're just numbing themselves. They're never actually doing the work that needs to be done to change the pattern. So they never feel satisfied. Like, they keep searching and going for more, but they never feel satisfied. And now, not to mention, of course, situations when the mother is proactively still trying to impact your relationships by not accepting the woman because she doesn't want to be replaced. That still happens, right? Like, oh, this girl is not good enough for my son. She will never be good enough. It's because the mother doesn't want to let go of you as her son. So once again, she's not allowing you to be an adult. She is keeping you stuck in the position of a boy. And so once again, you're not available for a relationship. So what we need to understand is that for a man to be able to really build a full, committed, deep, happy, healthy relationship, he needs to replace his mother with a woman. As in, okay, my mother is out of my life, meaning like energetically, right? I'm not impacted by her anymore. She's not impacting me. I'm not attached. I'm not dependent. I'm not codependent on my mother. Once you release that, once you're free from all of these attachments from a woman, now you have space for a different type of the feminine energy to enter your life, like a partner. As long as you're dependent on your mother, you're never making enough space for a woman to come in. So you need to let one go to make space for the other. Now, if any man right now listening feels challenged, just so you know, it's the same for us. Like, women need to release the father figure to make space for a different expression of the masculinity through their partner. So let's talk a little bit more about what to do about this, like how to change those patterns, what to do so they don't control your intimate life. So the very first thing, and this is the most important work, is the inner child work. What you want to be doing is start connecting to your inner boy and parent this inner boy. So all of the affection that you did not receive as a child, you need to give to yourself. All the nurturing that you're still trying to desperately get from women, you need to give to yourself. You need to be able to soothe yourself. So all of the places where you're dependent on women, you need to learn to take care of yourself. And it's most important to do this work in times when you feel anxious. I need a woman. Oh my God, it's like suddenly you fall in love like this with a woman and you don't understand why. That's the inner child. What is there? Close your eyes, connect to that feeling of anxiety. Why do I crave this woman? Why do I need this woman? Why am I not in control of my behavior when this woman showed up in my life? Connect to yourself, connect to the inner child, and ask him, what is it that you need? What are you missing right now? And maybe the child needs to be embraced, needs to be accepted. offer this into your inner child. Like, that's the fundamental work that you need to be doing. The second thing, be honest. Where do you resent your mother? What do you resent your mother for? And you will be resenting your mother. I mean, the thing is, if you know, when I do this work with clients and they start like going into this and they're like, no, my mom was good, I'm grateful for this and this and this, I'm like, no, that's the guilt. Remember, I spoke about the guilt, because it's not okay to say that my mom was mean or my mom was horrible when she did that. It's so not okay, because you want to be a good boy to receive affection from the woman, right? So you are not even able to tap into the resentment. So if you cannot find a single thing that you're resentful for, know that you're in a defense mechanism. Go deeper, and start uncovering this. Like, being aware of the places where your mom did not treat you right doesn't make you a bad son. Doesn't mean you're not lovable. It's the step in your process, actually, of reclaiming the sense of being worthy of love. The third thing, do a ritual to release your mother's energy. Now, these can be things like a bath with salt water, or doing like a body scrub with salt, or going to swim in the ocean with intention of the salt like pulling these energies out of you. Any form of purging, so things like kambo will be great if you go with the intention. Sitting with medicine like ayahuasca, any medicine that makes you purge, will be a great option as well. Just add the intention, and that's what you're doing. All of the rituals around cord cutting and cord pulling, working with the fire. So rituals are amazing because they work on the energy level. And now another thing I want to add is that healing and accepting your mom, like healing that relationship, doesn't mean not having boundaries. So actually what you want to do is start establishing healthy boundaries with your mother. Okay, so where do you need to draw a line? Does she call you too often? Or does she ask you too many things, like come and do this, come and fix that, right? When you come over, what's the relationship? Do you need to set certain boundaries? Do you need to express that, hey, this is not okay, or hey, I want you to accept that. This is who I am. It's not going to change now. So your boundaries, it's another way of healing that relationship, because this is how you release the dependency on your mother. And of course, coaching, any form of therapy and coaching, because usually when it comes to our relationship with our parents, there is so much to uncover. It's like we do some work and we think, oh, I'm done. And then boom, there is more. And there is more. And there is more. So it's like, it's a process. There's usually so much to uncover. So having someone who can guide you through this process is actually very helpful. So my loves, this is what I wanted to share with you today regarding this son-mother dynamic, like how it impacts your relationships and what to do. And I wanted to share with you that if you would be interested in doing this type of work with me, you can schedule a free discovery call with me. So you have the link to booking the session with me in the description of this video. It's a 30-minute free call where we talk and we see if we're a good match to do the work together. So what I'm available for is coaching in general regarding intimacy, sexuality, and relationships, but I also focus specifically on this wound and this pattern. So you can come to me with anything regarding your intimate life, but also if you want specifically to look at that pattern, we do the work of uncovering all of the attachments, dependency, and lessons. And then I actually guide my male clients through rituals that help you release this energy from your body, move on, and make space to fully welcome a woman into your life. So thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoyed it and have a beautiful day. Mwah.